Welcome to The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi. Today I'm really excited to chat with Courtney Soma. She is the founder of the Vitality Holistic Health and Wellness, and she is a health expert specializing in chronic pain, fatigue, weight loss resistance. Courtney empowers people to reclaim their health by addressing the root causes of their symptoms naturally and sustainability. And I love that because it is so important because a lot of times people get symptoms, they go to the doctor, and the doctor gives them medication to help the symptoms, but then another problem comes because they gave them medication and now they got symptoms from another medication, and the root cause, the main problem, is still there, hasn't gone away, and the person is feeling really crappy. So she's going to be here today. She's going to tell you how to actually get to the root cause and how to heal your body naturally and how to feel your best personal self. And because we all want to be reach our full potential, and she's going to show you how to do that today. So I'm so excited to have you here, Courtney. Tell everybody a little about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so thank you, Stacey. I'm excited to be here. So, a little bit about myself. I'm a mother of two young boys, a wife of a traveling husband that's also an entrepreneur. And I got into this space because of some health issues that I'm having and being a busy woman um with children and a family and a busy household. I just feel that it's really important to share this information with other women so they can feel empowered and really take back control of their lives.
I love that. Now, I want to start with chronic pain and fatigue because that is something that so many people deal with on a daily basis. And if you ever talk to people or you listen to people, they will tell you issues about, the pain they're feeling or the fatigue they're feeling, especially as we get older too. It just hits us. Can you share why so many practitioners miss the root cause of chronic symptoms like pain and fatigue?
Well, let's start with the conventional route, right? Because
Okay.
that's typically where everyone starts. Nobody really goes alternative unless they were raised that way or they're out of answers. And that's exactly what I went through. I had so much pain. I was so tired. I really wondered if is this normal? Is there something wrong? Um,
Yeah.
and for anyone that has chronic pain, not being able to participate in things with your family. Like I couldn't throw a football to my son. I've got two boys. And being afraid that I would be in pain if I participated in activities, and even in the backyard, just tossing a ball around,
Yeah.
that in itself causes stress. But when we look at things from the conventional perspective, and I think doctors are fantastic, I think they're out there to help. However, the system that we use is focused on symptom management with pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
That's not their fault, right? They do the best they can with what they've got.
Yeah.
But like you said, we're really not focusing on the cause of that pain. We're
Yeah.
focusing on shutting down, pain receptors, bypassing that. So a lot of us have this chronic pain that goes on for years, and the cause is never addressed.
Yes.
And a lot of us also, so maybe you've gone through the ringer with conventional medicine, physical therapy can help some, chiropractic can help some, nutrition can help some, but what we like to do is we'll try one thing for a few weeks and it doesn't give us amazing results. And then we want to try another thing instead of really sticking with like a holistic plan for ourselves. We try
Yeah.
piecemeal and we get really frustrated when things don't work out.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one thing that we go through, and even going into the functional space, which I think is can be more enlightening,
Hmm.
myself included. Sometimes we fall into the trap of replacing medications with supplements,
Yeah.
right? And those can be
Mhm.
very supportive as well, but still not going to fix the problem. So
Right.
a lot of us issues that just go on and we're not really addressing what's going on internally, which could be a number of things.
Oh, yeah. And I think people have to be careful too. They don't realize that a lot of supplements are used in pharmaceuticals when they're making the medicine because, supplements are really they're powerful, roots, they're powerful plants. And a lot of them are, they're medicine, they could be just as powerful as medication. And a lot of them can intertwine with a lot of medication too. So if you're on high blood pressure medication or high cholesterol medication, or you have anticonvulsion medication, they could actually interact, and you have to really know what you're taking, because like a lot of times people will Google a lot of stuff and they don't realize that, that sometimes, taking too many things could actually do more harm than good. So you really have to know what you're really lacking, what is that root cause, in order to fix it properly. And it takes a little bit of investigating, but you have to take time to really understand your body. And what do you feel that traditional medical approaches kind of often fail to address the lingering health issues fully?
Well, it's interesting because it's 2025, right? We think
Yeah.
medicine is so far advanced. And I'll just give you an example from my second neurologist, okay? And he was the first one that I really started seeing regularly. And his exact words to me is, we don't know what causes migraine. We think it
Mhm.
has something to do with sensitive brain. And this was a few years ago, and I'm thinking, this is your job.
Yeah.
You are a neurologist at a
Yeah.
local renowned headache clinic, and you want to tell me that you don't know what causes migraine,
Yeah.
right? So I think there's a lot that, and the functional space dips into it. They focus on things like mold. They focus on things like food intolerances and I lost my train of thought. But they get on the right track, but they're
Yeah.
not addressing, you know, our systems. And a lot of it comes down to, in my professional opinion, liver health, gut health, and our immune system health. Because
Yes.
what people don't realize, and some people are starting to catch on, we have all these exposures all day, every day, whether it be, mold, environmental chemicals, food contamination, heavy metals. And a lot of people still think that's a little, woo-woo. But the reality is our body's exposed to these things now more than ever. And nobody's really addressing kind of, okay, well, how can we help support our body? How can, we're exposed to all these viruses. How do we support our immune system?
Right.
Because those can lay dormant and cause problems. So
Yeah.
just stuff like that that's often overlooked, actually
Mhm.
completely overlooked in the traditional healthcare space.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that toxins, we're surrounded by toxins. We breathe them in constantly, from our indoors to the outdoors, to the detergents we use, to the cleaning agents we use. The foods we eat, people don't really, always realize that a lot of the ingredients and the preservatives in the foods could really be detrimental. They're toxic to our body. And a lot of these things over time build in our body, because for me, it's like, if your body doesn't know what to do with it, it's going to store it. And after a while, if you keep storing it, it's going to leach onto things and damage is going to occur. And, I don't think people realize that. For me, I know personally, my epilepsy did not get better until I started to detox and cleanse and start to change my life completely, lived a holistic life and just totally changed. That was when I started to get better. Now, from your experience, what are the key areas that someone needs to focus on for lasting health improvements?
So for lasting health improvements, and there are a few, but number one, and this is often missed, is mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is something that I didn't have when I started down this health journey. It was, give me the protocol. What elimination diet do you want me to try?
Yeah.
What can reduce my pain? Okay, send me a meditation. Give me the affirmations, which I'm strong, like I advocate for affirmations, but if you don't believe them, that's another story, right? Like you
Yeah.
have to bridge that gap. But in any event, your mental state, because,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a medical background, I was trained in biology, right? Data and science is the way my brain works.
Yeah.
So switching this viewpoint has been very difficult, but we're often told, well, most diseases are genetic.
Mm-hmm.
We can't clear up all of our environment, so why try?
Yeah.
Um, or, we're told, you've got an autoimmune issue, your body is attacking itself, and you get in that state and you really feel like, well, I don't have control over my own body. And
Yeah.
really switching the mindset and working on those limiting beliefs that we've either learned or we've developed over time because we're so used to living with pain and missing
Yeah.
out on things or being afraid you're going to have a flare. Uh,
Yeah.
really getting to the bottom of that, I think, is the base of healing and understanding that we weren't put here, created, evolved, whatever you want to believe,
Yeah.
to live a lifetime full of pain on medications. We weren't put here
Right.
to fall apart, right?
Exactly. Oh,
And we
yeah.
have power over that.
100%. Now, how does your approach different from other methods that most people have tried in the past?
So I try to be holistic. I am holistic. I can't do everything. You're not
Yeah.
gonna come see me and get acupuncture and chiropractic and nutrition and all that stuff. But there's the doctors, there's the naturopaths, there's the health coaches, the nutritionists, the personal trainers. And what I do with my clients is I take a holistic approach and we really start with the mindset, but we also focus on holistic nutrition as well as movement and
Yeah.
lifestyle. And I meet everybody where they're at.
Yeah.
And we walk through that process. So it's not like you're just going to someone and you're going to get like a laundry list of supplements, or you're going and you're going to have a 60-minute call on, how was your week and how can you improve? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we
Oh,
really
yeah.
get to the bottom of those things and focus on nutritionally supporting those bodily systems, and in particular, the liver, gut, and the immune system and the
I
nervous
love.
system.
Yeah. And those are the most important parts. Like if you can get those things, in sync and you can have them working properly, you will see a massive change in your whole structure of your body, the way you think, the way you feel, your energy level, everything. A lot of people say once they get everything in order and they're doing the right things and their body is working and it's all in sync, that they feel like they're 20, 30 years younger again, and it shows because you got a lot of times you look at people's skin and you could tell their health just by their skin, and people don't even realize that. Now, what's the first step somebody can take to start moving past the chronic pain and the fatigue and so forth?
So the first step, the two things that I would do is really start focusing on the positive things about your body. If you can grab on to one thing, to start training your brain to
Mhm.
think more positively and with a more healing mindset. You know,
Yeah,
if you don't believe that you have a strong, healthy body, or you really feel like that's not healthy for you or reality for you right now, focusing on what you can do. Or
yeah,
if you're a mother or a wife or a daughter, if you're, even for men,
yeah,
I am enough. I am a good mother. I love my children, and focusing on the positives and being grateful. And that's the start of retraining your brain to
right.
rewire it. Neuroplasticity, there's a whole field on how we can retrain our brain. And
Yes.
that's what we need to do. The other thing to start with is nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
For me, changing the way we eat is different. It can be challenging. It's not always easy, but it can be simple.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's so much noise around food. And that's a trap that I fell into as well. Like, well, do I eat this way? Do I eat keto? Do I, low FODMAP? I had severe
Yeah.
MS for over 20 years. And we get really confused. And it's just go back to the basics.
Yeah.
As intelligent as humans are,
Mm-hmm.
we are the only species on the planet that is confused about what to eat, and we need a double-blind, random controlled study to
Yeah.
tell us that things that come out of the ground are healthy. And, I think studies are great, but you can prove anything with a study on either side. So I
Yeah.
like to use science. That's what I'm trained in. But at the same time, for every scientific article I cite, somebody else can cite something that proves differently. So depending on how you control the variables, you can get any result that you want.
Yes.
So it's get back to the basics and really focusing on, rather than restriction, abundance
Right.
and nourishing our body, getting the brightly colored foods, eat the rainbow. Uh,
Yeah.
and for liver health, if you do have something that you need to heal, I do personally highly recommend lowering the fat content because that adds burden to the liver. Um,
Yeah.
I know that's a controversial topic. Everybody's going to have their opinion.
Yep.
Don't kill the messenger. Everybody has the right to do what they want. But for liver health, making sure that we're not overburdening it with fat, because now younger people are being diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Oh yeah. Diabetes tripled, in the last couple of years. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. So, just, blueberries are not going to kill you. Spinach is not going to kill you. Focus on the vitamins. If you can stay away from things and packages as much as possible, I think those are the easiest places to start.
Yes, I agree with you. Now, when it comes to weight loss and comes to resistance and sustainable health, why do you think diets fail and what's missing from these approaches?
Yeah, absolutely. So we spend billions, if not trillions of dollars every year on weight loss. And for me,
Hmm.
it's always been a struggle. I've always, felt kind of uncomfortable in my body and wanted to lose weight. And I was constantly yo-yo dieting.
Yeah,
And um, I was working with a personal trainer a few years ago, and I looked great. Um, I had lost some weight after my second child. I was in shape, but my health was going to hell in a handbasket. My skin
yeah.
was terrible. I had dermatitis that wouldn't quit,
Hmm.
the IBS, migraine, and I actually have a few chronic diagnoses that have been slapped on me, but it's always do this and you have a set outcome.
Yeah,
And they lack that mindset. And, a lot of people may not believe or feel worthy, or, buying healthy food can be a little bit more expensive and they feel guilty spending the money on themselves. I mean, I've even
yeah,
felt that myself to juice.
right,
It's expensive and I have a family and I thought, well, should I be spending this money when I have a family to feed?
right.
Economic environment we're in. But in any event, we're not addressing mindset and how we think and feel about ourselves. And it's typically focused toward an end goal.
Yeah,
And having an end goal can be great, but what happens when you get there?
exactly.
If it's not sustainable, you stop,
Yeah,
right? You don't want
oh,
to be on a diet forever. So
yeah,
part of the things that I focus on is an abundance of food, but the lower calorie density foods, so you can eat freely as much as you want
yeah,
without gaining weight.
exactly.
So focusing on those foods, but the foods that people enjoy out of those, so they're not sitting there like another salad with chomping it down. There's
Yeah,
some ways that you can make food interesting and fun and delicious
yeah,
while losing weight. But the other thing too is making sure you're addressing like the liver and the gut health, because if you don't have that,
yeah,
calories and macros are like the gasoline to your car.
right.
The fiber, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, all those antioxidants, those are like the
Yeah.
oil that keep things running, right? So if
Oh
you
yeah,
don't have those, you can put all the gas in your car that you want, but if you don't get your oil changed regularly and keep that up, it's going to break down.
100%.
So, same thing with weight loss. We want to make sure things are functioning properly and we're nourishing it properly. We're not
Mhm.
going for like 100-calorie packs. We're going for something that's going to actually nourish us from a micronutrient perspective. So, I think that is missing in a lot of programs because we're not focused on nourishment. We're focused on, okay, we can eat this many calories and we need this many protein, carbs, and fat.
Yep.
And that's what we're focused on.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you. I think if people focused on nourishing, colorful, vegetables and healthy foods and stop thinking about, 100 calorie, the bag of, nuts or whatever, they would be so much
Like,
healthier. And some of those foods that are like they say 100 calories for a cup of this, like if you look on the ingredients in the back, you can't even pronounce the ingredients because it's all artificial. So you think you're getting, oh, I'm getting 100 calories, but you can't even imagine what it's doing to your body. It's like it's horrifying, and people don't get that. And so the biggest misconception about weight loss, particularly around like macros like carbs and fats and proteins and stuff like that?
There's a couple. Actually, there's a lot. One of the biggest thing is that carbs make you fat.
Hmm.
And carbohydrates are our primary source of energy. So,
Yes.
and carbohydrates also only have 4 calories per gram versus fat having 9. Uh,
Yeah.
so the whole carbs make you fat thing. Now, one thing that people do notice when they go low carb or they restrict is water weight. But
Yeah.
to what extent is, losing a healthy amount of water weight versus, okay, well, now you're causing dehydration, right?
Exactly.
So when you
Hmm.
carbs do hold on to a little bit more water, but we also are mostly water. Every cell in our body needs water
Yeah.
to function properly, right? So
Right.
just because you lose water weight doesn't mean it's a healthy weight loss.
Exactly.
Um, I got a little sidetracked. Can you repeat the question?
So we
Misconception.
were talking about the misconceptions around counting the macros like carbs and fats and proteins, and you were telling us about all the different types of people the misconceptions of carbs like low carbs versus high carbs, and then that dehydration. Like we need those carbs, and people think, oh, carbs aren't good for us, but our whole body is made of water,
Yeah,
and we
for
so
sure.
that's what you were saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry about that. I got sidetracked momentarily. So I think the carb thing is huge. They don't make you gain weight. What is most important, and actually I'll tie this in at the end, the time of day that you eat. So there's a lot of information. Well, you should eat this time. You should, not eat right before bed. And there are other reasons for that. The
Yeah.
digestive system is a little bit slower at night. So you do want to give yourself time to move that through. Um,
Yeah.
but the quantity and quality of what you eat is more important than the timing, uh,
Yeah.
and whether or not it's protein, carbs, and fat. So making sure you're having high quality foods, that are fresh foods that are going to nourish you and help your body run better and to help
Yeah.
you burn more calories and to lose weight. Trying to think if there's anything else right off the bat, but I think those are the big ones. Carbs making you fat is probably the hugest one.
Yeah, yeah, no, it is. It's a huge myth. Now, what does making sustainable changes to your diet and lifestyle truly look like? Can you share some examples that lead to long-term health and progress?
Yeah, so a lot of us are chronically dehydrated,
Mhm.
right? So like we touched on earlier, making sure that we're hydrated properly. So and a lot of us are, we're going to talk about poop here for a second, okay?
Mhm.
A lot of us are constipated as well. Uh,
Yeah,
we're told when we go to the doctor, if you have anywhere between, 3 bowel movements a week to 3 bowel movements a day, it's healthy, or normal.
yeah.
Because it's normal doesn't mean it's healthy. And I had chronic IBS for like 20 years, right?
Mm.
I used to have one bowel movement like every 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And then I started, fast forward, 15 years or so, and I started seeing functional practitioners and, having about 4 bowel movements a week. And I thought I was on fire. Okay. He's like, you're so constipated. You need to have like 1 to 2 a day. And I thought she was freaking crazy. I almost fired her on the spot. But hydration not only helps with everything on a cellular level, but it helps move things through. So you're not
Yeah,
holding on to all the food. Like imagine yourself going down a water slide with no water,
yeah,
right? That's everything moving through our digestive system. So we have to keep it hydrated and lubricated, but not just from drinking water, but like easy ways to get more hydration throughout the day is eating high fruits with high water content. So whether
Yeah.
that be apples, cucumbers, celery. I mean, nobody loves celery, but if you want to do
Watermelon.
celery, watermelon, yeah. Berries, grapes, you want to stay hydrated. If you look at a grape versus a raisin, do you want to be the
Yeah.
grape or the raisin?
Right.
Your skin, hydrate your body. So little things like that. And then, just start with one meal at a time, or maybe it's a snack. Maybe
Yeah.
you pack to like packaged snacks that are highly processed. Switch it out to a fruit or a vegetable. Just start with your snack,
Yeah.
right? So just make little changes that are sustainable. And the mindset piece was really important. So if you can't sit down and do a 10 or 15 minute meditation right now, and that's, or you think it's just not for you, you can't get your brain there,
Yeah.
just start with a couple of things you're grateful for before you get out of bed
Right.
and when you go to bed to start and end your day, and it takes like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
We can all usually find something even on the worst days.
Yes. That's so true. And in the more practice you give yourself, the better you get at it too, you know.
100%. Yeah.
Now, how can people shift their mindset to like avoid restrictive cycles and experience like true food freedom?
Oh, you have to. Okay. So it's it's simple. It's simple, but it's not always easy, right? Because you have to retrain
Yeah.
the brain because we are so used to restriction gets you results. And it
Yeah.
can temporarily, but then what happens? We're cranky, we're
Yep.
hangry, and
Hmm.
everybody regains the weight once they stop.
Yes, they do.
So, regardless, so I personally am plant-based, but whether or not you're plant-based,
Hmm.
eating low caloric density foods
Yeah.
can help you eat more and
Hmm.
feel full while consuming less overall calories. So,
Exactly.
you know, um, even if you do eat meat, you can have, steamed vegetables on the side. You can
Yeah.
steam your potatoes. It does take some time to get used to maybe steaming instead of roasting. Um,
Right.
or instead of having, something, I mean, pasta's not terrible, but, instead of having pasta a few times a night, or, if you have it, you can add in those vegetables, add some peas or
Right.
steamed broccoli. Um,
Hmm.
really focusing on the foods that you can have in abundance that you enjoy,
Yeah.
right? So you can have, I mean, half a plate of broccoli that's,
Right.
and there's much more interesting vegetables out there. But when
Hmm.
we focus on the low caloric density foods, you can
Yeah.
have more, and people aren't used to eating more.
Right.
They're used to being forced to eat less. So eating more is scary sometimes,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be. Uh,
Right.
but you can, in order to make that shift, just focusing on those lower caloric density foods and eating
Hmm.
those in abundance. And if you want to have something with high caloric density, and there's nothing wrong with like nuts, seeds, dried fruits, but those are
Yeah.
often things that we go to because they are healthy, but they're very high in caloric density. So, like I said
Yes.
before, instead of raisins, eat the grapes.
Right.
They're bigger, they weigh more, they're going to make you feel more satiated than
Hmm.
eating something that's dried. So just like
Exactly.
little shifts like that can help with feelings of fullness, eating in abundance, and overcoming that weight loss resistance because now you're eating more, but it's not as calorically dense.
Right. That's so true. Now, how does the body like strive to heal itself, and why is this process often underestimated?
How does it strive to heal? I think it's striving to heal itself every day. I mean, its sole purpose is to keep us alive, right?
Yeah,
Like it,
100%.
every organism's desire is to be alive and reproduce.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's underestimated because we often take our power away by saying, well, I have this condition and it's genetic, or they don't have a cure
Yep.
for it. And genes are very important, but
Hmm.
across all conditions,
Yeah.
whether it be autoimmune, whether it be cancer, diabetes, so on and so forth, only 5 to 10% of all chronic conditions are actually solely genetic.
Yes, that's true.
That means they can't be prevented regardless, which is amazing because 90 to 95% we can prevent and or reverse, but we're not given that information, right? So
Yeah.
we do need to support it. And we also we just need to understand that what we put in and on and around our body does play a role. And
Yeah.
I think more and more people are coming to that realization now. Uh,
Hmm.
whereas, but there are still so many people that unless you've encountered a chronic condition yourself and really kind of dove in, you don't
Yeah.
realize how much is out there. And this isn't to fear monger
Yeah.
or anything like that, but we trust that what's out there is supposed to be safe for us,
Yeah.
right? And it's really just supporting our body and making sure, we're reading labels, and you don't even have to really read labels. They have apps for everything. The Yuka app,
Yeah.
I was using it
It's
for
true.
sunscreen yesterday. Some people don't even believe in sunscreen. We still do the sunscreen thing, but we get native sunscreen. You can scan the barcode and it'll tell you what chemicals are in there. And you get,
Yeah.
well, I'm okay with that or I'm not okay with that.
Right.
Um, but yeah, we have to give our bodies more the credit where credit is due because even if you have something and you have a surgical procedure, right?
Yeah.
The doctors can do amazing work and they can sew you back together, but the body is the thing that's actually healing itself.
Yeah.
The body is the one that is closing that wound,
Yeah.
right? So just keep in mind, the body can heal. It's not against you, and it has power that you may not even realize it has.
Right. That's so true. Now, can you explain the connection between the gut, the liver, and the immune system over in overall health?
Yeah, so the liver, let's start with the liver. So the liver has over 500 functions, right? So a lot of people think, and this was myself included before diving into the liver, uh,
Yeah.
it's it doesn't only filter toxins in our blood and things like that. It produces hormones, it's involved in digestion of fat. So really supporting our livers by, I mean, obviously alcohol is one of them, but a lot of people don't think about, high fat diets and their liver. But when we
Yeah.
have that, it can really slow the liver down.
Oh, yeah.
So making sure we're doing that. The gut, obviously, the gut-brain connection is huge. So that, the vagus nerve carries all that information back and forth, and they're highly related. So the gut has been deemed the second brain,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
It
But making
is.
sure we're taking care of it and, giving it proper nutrition. Fiber is another hot topic that's super controversial. I don't know why, but we have a full microbiome that thrives on fiber.
Yeah.
If we don't give it the nutrients that it needs, then that microbiome is gonna be imbalanced. And, things like infections like strep and even allergies, there are microbiota such as H. pylori that produce
Yeah.
excess histamine, which can lead to allergy problems, right? So really taking care of the gut can impact so much more than just how frequently we use the
Yeah.
restroom.
Hmm.
And then, as far as the immune system is concerned, a lot of people don't realize that viruses and bacteria stay with us for quite some time. So,
Yeah.
we are more bacterial DNA than we are human.
Hmm.
And viruses, you know, people have the long, I don't know if we can say the C word
You
on
can.
here, but it stays with you.
Yeah.
Some viruses come back out of dormancy and can cause problems. So making sure we have a strong immune system. Um,
Yeah.
Cancer is becoming more and more prevalent, making sure the immune system is strong so it can fight off those. But what does it need? It
Yeah.
needs vitamins, minerals, antioxidants
Yeah.
in order to boost the immune system. So things that are really helpful for the immune system are vitamin C and L-lysine.
Mhm.
Uh, I take those every day. Those are a couple of my staples that I always take that just really help the immune system out.
That's great advice because it is so true that viruses do stay. People think, oh, I'm starting to feel better, and all of a sudden, they don't realize that that virus is still in them. It hasn't gone away yet. It takes time for the viruses to totally kick out of your system, and sometimes, certain viruses will kind of go in reserve, and sometimes they could just pop out. It depending on what it is, also. You
Yeah,
know.
for sure. And some of them, we've all been, especially women, talked to about, HPV and making sure we're getting vaccinated for that and because it can lead to cancer down the line. So there are multiple viruses that have been linked to things like cancer and autoimmune disease. So making sure our immune system is healthy to keep those under control can also help prevent other chronic conditions from developing.
Oh yeah, 100%. Now, many turn to supplements for health improvement. Like, what are some of your top recommendations, and how does yours differ from the common expectations of other people's?
Yeah, so I've been down the supplement rabbit hole many, many times. Basically attempting to try to help myself and really, all I was doing was replacing medications with supplements.
Yeah.
Um, so I think as far as supplements go, I try to get as much nutrition from food as possible because that's
Oh
always going to be the best source.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
There are other cofactors in food that help the vitamins and minerals and antioxidants function better in our body than a single standalone supplement would do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the best source. Um, if somebody has a deficiency, I mean, the best thing to do is to get the blood work done and see if you have a deficiency. But you also have to keep in mind that's a snapshot of what's happening in the blood at that moment,
Yeah.
right? None of the labs are completely perfect when it comes to, whether it's a blood test or organic acids or a Dutch test. It's just a snippet of what's going on at that moment. Um,
Yeah.
but, making sure if you have a deficiency that you're covering what you've got. You don't need necessarily to go out and get like a high-end multivitamin if you might just have one singular deficiency. Um,
Exactly.
Things that a lot of us need are, the vitamin C is huge and it's a very powerful antioxidant. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Something that that's what I take every single day. The vitamin C, the L-lysine. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of what else. I think those are my biggest recommendations for most people, but it's also going to be specific on, kind of what you're going through, what you need, what your nutrition looks like.
Yeah.
Also making sure to like get quality supplements and not just taking things to take them because somebody's promoting it on Instagram, right? So
Yeah.
definitely support yourself on an as needed basis. But I think we do go a little haywire when it comes to supplements sometimes as well.
Oh yeah, it's $1 billion business. We do, I always say it's always good to get a blood workout, a full blood workout, find out what you're deficient in and what you really need versus, just deciding, I think I need this, I think I need that. Oh, that sounds good. Oh, that, Google says I should take this and this and this, and that's good for my immune system. So I'll get all three. And you have to, really see where you're at, where your body's at, I think.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Now, if someone was ready to start healing today, what are some of the three actionable steps that you would tell them to take right now?
Three actionable steps to start healing today. I think we covered a couple of them already. The
Yeah.
mindset Like I'm always going to refer back to that, starting with the nutrition. And the third one would probably be to give yourself some grace and to like slow down. These
Yeah.
things that I had trouble with because we are in such a fast-paced, high demand environment
Yes. Mm-hmm.
all the time. And when we are in this space, from a healing perspective, we really do need to give our nervous system the ability to relax, especially if you have a neurological diagnosis. For me, that was chronic migraine.
Yeah.
And when we are in constant fight or flight,
Mm-hmm.
and we may not even realize it, um,
Yeah.
when we're in that fight or flight stage, the body's focused on keeping us alive,
Yeah.
not cleaning up, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
A big shift for me was looking at how much I'm putting on my plate and
Yeah.
expecting myself, giving myself grace when I didn't get all of that done. And I know it's hard, you know,
Yeah.
it's very hard sometimes. But maybe taking some stuff off your plate if you can, and if not, then give yourself the grace and take some time to really focus on breath, which is a
Yeah.
whole conversation, but your breath is really the bridge between your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system. So by
Yes.
using your breath, you can take yourself out of fight or flight
Yeah.
and help the body to calm down so you can move forward.
Yes. Oh, that's great advice. Now, is there any additional, thoughts that you'd like to add, like anything you other that we just mentioned that you'd like to emphasize on?
No, just remember that. I guess I do. So, yes, not no. Healing is a journey. And for many of us, problems didn't pop up overnight. For
Yeah.
me, it was over the course of a couple of decades.
Yeah.
And we have to be patient.
Yes.
There are times where it's not going to be easy, but you can still try to make it simple.
Yes.
So just remember that there will be ebbs and flows, there will be ups and downs, but something that gets me through this is having chronic pain and spending all the time, money, and energy that I've spent seeking out answers has really changed my life and it's changed the life of my family. Um, it's had a very positive impact.
Yeah.
So there is, not to be cliche, there is a silver lining. Uh,
Yeah.
and this has changed the trajectory of, my entire life and my kids' lives. And I may not be able to prevent everything that happens to me or my kids, uh,
Yeah.
from a health perspective, but I can put myself in the best position possible. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, when I was in my 20s, I treated my body like it was a garbage can.
I think we all do.
So, things don't happen overnight. So just be patient with yourself and trust the process, and
Yeah.
you will see improvements.
Such great advice. Now, if you had to like tell everybody about your services, what are some things that you'd like to share, like the services that you provide and where we can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me online. I'll send you the link so you have it, but it's vitalityholistichw.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. I do have a private Facebook community where people can ask questions, and I do some live trainings. I do have an upcoming masterclass where we discuss how you can reduce pain, get off of medication, and really get your life back. That's actually going to be June 12th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah.
It's a free masterclass. But if any of this resonated with you, I do offer free consultations, and I will have a special promotion specifically for your listeners if they mention your show. But I offer for people that really need to heal a 6-month program. where we work side by side to really, I meet you where you're at and we take a deep dive into the mindset, nutrition, movement, and lifestyle to really help you so you can finally get answers. And by the time we're done working together, you'll have seen improvement and also be confident in your next steps.
Right. I love that. I love that. Well, this has been amazing. I thank you so much, Courtney, for coming on the show. I hope you'll join us again. The information you provided today was outstanding. And, so many people go through, chronic pain. They go through different, yeah, things in life and they struggle with weight loss, hormones, this, that, depression and just trying to get through, because a lot of times these medical conditions could cause depression and can cause us to really get stuck in life and and that positive mindset that just you're trying to get through it and just telling yourself we're going to get through this, we're going to get through this, plays goes a long way. So I thank you so much for sharing your information today and sharing everything. You've really made a huge impact, just on me, so I can imagine what you did to the listeners out there. But thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Stacey. It was a pleasure.
Yes, you have a great day.
Thanks, you too.